So it looks like we have everyone here now for our second meeting, so we can start this. So good afternoon to everyone and welcome to today's virtual design review panel meeting. This is the second item on our agenda today. I am Joe Bortoloni, Development Planning Technician, host of this meeting, but panel member David Coluccio will be the chair. In addition to the panel members, we have the applicant team, city staff, members of the public, and the media observing these meetings. Members of the public are welcome to observe the meeting only, please. This session is being recorded and will be uploaded to the DRP webpage. Just a reminder to please keep your microphones muted if you're not speaking. Thank you. David, please begin the meeting.
Good afternoon and welcome everyone. Joe, can you please confirm that the session is being recorded?
It is.
And are there any changes to the agenda today?
There are not, no.
And I assume that there are no conflicts with panel members. I'll take silence as agreement that there is no conflict of interest issues. So the second item on the agenda today is the review of a 6-story 80-suite hotel with 56 surface parking spaces located at 2502 Upper James Street. The lead planner on this file is James Van Roy. I don't know if I pronounced your last name correctly. Good afternoon, James. We are ready for your presentation.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, David. And yes, the pronunciation is James Van Roy. So you did very well.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I can't. Oh, it doesn't look like I can access my USB camera. But I'll just begin with sharing my presentation.
Actually, we can see you now.
Oh, perfect. Hopefully, I can get a haircut this Friday. And can you see the presentation?
Yes.
Perfect. So again, I'm James Van Roy. I'm Planner 1 with the Development Planning Suburban team, and I'll be discussing the development proposal at 2502 Upper James Street in Glenbrook. Again, the site is, the proposal is for a 6-story, 80-room hotel with access off of Arrow Park Boulevard, along with 56 surface parking spaces and an outdoor patio area. Here we have our site outlined in red. The site currently contains a single attached dwelling as well as an accessory structure. As you can see, the site is bound by Upper James Street on the east, Glanair Drive on the south, and on the west we have Arrow Park Boulevard. And to the north of the site we have a single attached dwelling property. It's known as 2492 Upper James Street. To the east we have automotive uses, although right now the aerial is not updated, but right here we have a Mitsubishi dealership, and here we have various automotive service uses. Further east we have agricultural lands, and to the south, you can't see right now, but we have lands under construction. There's conditional approval for a warehouse here, and to the west we have our Amazon fulfillment center, which is currently under construction. So to give you a sense of the area, here's a view of the subject lands. This is from Upper James Street looking west. It's a long, skinny, narrow lot. And the property boundaries kind of follows this row of trees here on the right-hand side of the screen. Here we have a view of Glanair Drive looking west. Off in the distance, you can see the Amazon Fulfillment Center. And the subject lands are on the right-hand side of the screen here. Lots of mature vegetation, as you can see. This is a view of the front portion of the property. I just wanted to take this photo to get a sense of the grade change at the intersection of Upper James and Glanair Drive and the subject lands. And here we are at the rear of the property, or the property is on the left-hand side of the screen here, but this is kind of to get a sense of how long this property is. This is an intersection, Glanair Drive and Arrow Park Boulevard, and off in the distance is where the first few photos or slides are taken from. So that's Upper James over in the distance. And here again, we have a view of the rear of the property. And here's a rear view of the property continued. On the right-hand side, we probably have the northern property line that continues all the way to Upper James. Here is the view of the Mitsubishi dealership to the east of the subject lands across the road on Upper James. And here we have a view of various motor vehicle service uses east of the subject lands. And here we have a view of the lands north of the subject property looking west. And here we have a view of the area southwest of the subject lands. This is the Amazon Fulfillment Center here. And here we have a view of Arrow Park Boulevard looking north. Further north of the subject lands, other than the single attached dwelling, we also have the Orlick Industrial Plan of Subdivision. So here is the proposed site plan for the property. Once again, it's for a 6-story hotel with 80 guest rooms. There is also a proposed outdoor patio area, 56 parking spaces, and we have access proposed off of Arrow Park Boulevard. Here we have a view of our elevations. So we have the northern elevation, southern elevation. The southern elevation would be as if you were looking at the site from Glenair Drive. And here we have our western elevation and our eastern elevation. The eastern elevation would be if you were looking at the site from Upper James Street. Here's a proposed rendering. And here we have our proposed landscape plan. Sorry, just taking a sip of water there. The lands are identified on Schedule E as employment areas, and they are also located along a primary corridor, being Upper James Street. We also have the lands are designated as Airport Employment Growth District. So some of the major policy themes that we have for our employment areas shall provide for a diverse range of employment opportunities in proximity to the city's major infrastructure, including the port and the airport. Employment areas shall be planned and designed to be easily accessible by a range of transportation modes. Employment areas shall be designed to improve the aesthetics from the public realm. In terms of primary corridors, they shall serve as to link 2 or more nodes, major activity centers, or employment areas. Shall be the location of a range of higher density land uses along the corridor. As stated before, the lands are designated Airport Employment Growth District. So airport related business uses, including hotels, are permitted on the lands designated Airport Employment Growth District. The density target is 37 employees per net hectare. All existing residential uses within the AEGD district shall be ultimately redeveloped in compliance with the uses permitted by the UHOP, the Urban Hamilton Official Plan. Some major policy themes regarding urban design. Urban design should foster a sense of community pride and identity by respecting existing character, development patterns, built form, and landscape, by conserving, maintaining, and enhancing the natural heritage and topographic features of the city and its communities. We want to create quality spaces that physically and visually connect the public and private realms by organizing space in a logical manner through the design, placement, and construction of new buildings, streets, structures, and landscaping. We want to use materials that are consistent and compatible with the surrounding context in the design of new buildings. We want to include in transitional areas between the public and private realms where possible, features such as landscaping, planters, porches, canopies, and/or stairs. Urban design should promote environmental sustainability by integrating, protecting, and enhancing environmental features and landscapes, including existing topography, forest, and vegetative cover, green spaces, and corridors through building and site design. It should encourage on-site stormwater management and infiltration through the use of techniques and technologies, including stormwater management ponds, green roofs, and vegetated swales. We want to encourage LEED design or other environmental building rating tools for buildings and infrastructure for all development and redevelopment. This is an excerpt from our secondary plan for the AEGD. The lands are further designated Airport Prestige Business. And the major policy themes, we're in volume 2 of our official plan here. Airport prestige business uses shall be developed in accordance with the supporting policies, principles, and requirements of the secondary plan and the Airport Employment Growth District Eco-Industrial Design Guidelines and Urban Design Guidelines. Airport prestige business designation shall be subject to minimum standards for urban design and a high level of sustainable design. Development shall integrate natural features into their landscaping and buffering to minimize impacts on adjoining areas. Basically, we have a set of eco-industrial design and urban design policies in our secondary plan that really speak to sustainable design practices. So I'll just touch on them here. So we have renewable energy and greenhouse gas reduction, for example, the conservation and efficiency of energy reduction and greenhouse gas emissions, climate change adaptation, generation of energy through use of renewable energy systems or alternative energy systems, and improved air quality shall be promoted. The reduction of energy consumption in buildings beyond minimum requirements and the use of high efficiency heating, ventilation, and cooling equipment, appliances, and fixtures are encouraged. Regarding water conservation, approaches such as minimizing pumping stations and optimizing gravity catchment areas shall be encouraged. The use of water efficient fixtures and equipment, as well as any other water saving and recycling methods / measures should be encouraged. Water and wastewater facilities built within the AEGD should employ architectural principles and materials that are consistent with surrounding areas' built form. Regarding materials and resource and solid waste, the use of green building materials, use of locally harvested, recovered, manufactured, or extracted materials for buildings and infrastructure shall be encouraged. Regarding site development, appropriate development and intensity and efficient use of land in site planning shall be encouraged. The incorporation of sustainable design elements into the site, which maintains ecological integrity of the site, shall be encouraged. Site disturbance should be minimized, and replanting to compensate for tree removals and to provide cooling and shade for trees for streets, building, and open spaces shall be encouraged. The use of measures to reduce heat island effects shall be encouraged. Landscape buffers that address the interface and edges and provide naturalized buffers between developed areas of the site, streets, and adjacent natural areas are encouraged. Access to development lots from local streets is encouraged whenever possible. Building setbacks to ensure landscape screening of loading and service areas and landscape buffers at the extent of site is encouraged. Getting into our zoning framework here, the site is zoned M11 in our 05200 bylaw. So this is Airport Prestige Business Zone. For the most part, it meets many of the zoning regulations. There are a few regulations such as landscape areas abutting streets and parking that we will require a variance for or perhaps a redesign to the site. And my questions before you panelists today, does the proposal encourage on-site stormwater management and infiltration through the use of techniques and technologies, including green roofs and vegetated swales? Does the proposal encourage the use of LEED or other environmental building rating tools for buildings and infrastructure?
James,
Yes.
I think you can take this as read. I'm a little nervous about how much time you're taking here.
Sorry. Okay, that is the last one. So thank you.
I take it the proponent has something to say, or is that?
Yes. So I don't have, let me see if I can get my video going. There we go. Yes, so we do have a presentation. It's not very long and a lot of it is echoing what was already said. James, I just want to clarify very quickly. I know we were working with Emily Bent on the file. Are you going to be the new planner assigned to the file?
Yes, I believe so. So
Okay.
nice to work with you and nice to meet you, Ashley.
Yeah, nice to meet you as well. Okay, so I'll share my screen here. Can you see anything?
At present, it doesn't appear you're sharing your screen. Oh, wait, something's appearing. It disappeared.
Ashley, would it be easy enough for James to just open the document, the justification report or the planning report as submitted?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Oh, we see you sharing now, Ashley.
Okay. Okay, there we go. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ashley Minns, and I'm a project coordinator with IBI Group. I'm the agent on the file representing Oleakram Inc., who are the owners of 2502 Upper James Street. I'm going to take a couple minutes to introduce our proposal to you before handing it over to Linnea Chamberlain of Chamberlain Architect Services Limited to go into more detail about the architectural and urban design elements of the proposal.
Just want to remind everybody that they have about 8 minutes left here.
Yep. The subject lands are municipally known as 2502 Upper James Street. The site is 4,148 square meters or 1.02 acres in size and is currently developed as a single detached house with an accessory structure. The site has frontage onto 3 streets, Upper James to the east, Glen Eyre Drive to the south, and Arrow Park Boulevard to the west. And the use to the north is a single detached house. The site currently has access off of Upper James, but we're proposing future access to be off of Arrow Park Boulevard. Adjacent to our site to the west is the brand new Amazon Fulfillment Center that is currently under construction and is set to be completed soon. And beyond that is the John C. Munro Hamilton International Airport. As was mentioned, we're proposing a 6-story hotel with 80 guest suites that will also include 56 associated parking spaces, bike racks, landscape provisions, and some outdoor amenity space. Zoning for 2502 Upper James is Airport Prestige Business Park M11, which a hotel is a permitted use under this zone. Generally, we're in compliance with the zoning bylaw and we'll be working through any possible required variances through the site plan process. We have already submitted our site plan application and we look forward to receiving preliminary comments from the city after this meeting and working towards conditional and then final approval. IBI Group prepared the landscape plan for this site. The landscape plan features new street trees surrounding the parking lot, creating a visual barrier between the proposed development and existing context, as well as coniferous trees bordering the patio and ornamental flowering trees to create visual interest along Glen Eyre Drive, enhancing the pedestrian experience. In addition, low-level planting surrounding the building functions to contrast and complement its materials and forms. And the use of all these planting helps to create year-round visual interest and animation. I'd now like to hand it over to Linnea Chamberlain of Chamberlain Architects to take you through the rest of the proposal in more detail.
You're on mute, I think.
Sorry. Ashley, if you could just go up to the site plan, we'll start there. My name is Linnea Chamberlain from Chamberlain Architect Services Limited. We're an architectural firm that specializes in hospitality, so the hotel sector across North America. As Ashley noted, I won't go into too many details on revisiting items she already noted, but the main entrance, porte cochere, is actually coming off Arrow Park Boulevard, which allows us to reduce the fire truck entrance and into the site. The landscape plan with some of the reduced islands for planting allow to reduce some of the heat island effect. As noted, there are 2 minor variances. One will be parking, one will be for the landscape setback, but Ashley addressed those items. It's a 6-story, 80-room hotel, boutique hotel. The design will reflect a modern mythology of the, well durable materials, form and palette. One of interesting note that I just thought of, the 37 employees per hectare were 0.4 hectares. So I think that works out to, if my quick math works, to about 15 employees. which owners can review. In regards to sustainability items, the OBC will require, we've basically hit LEED Silver just through the OBC. I think one item of interest, which should be a positive, is that the garbage is actually at this corner is an interior garbage room, not exterior, to help with the visual aspect on the site. Just as an FYI, the exterior amenity space are for the users of the hotel. It's not for public realm. It's basically for users of the hotel. The configuration, I won't go into too much detail. It pretty much represents, the required spaces for a hotel. Lounge, lobby, breakfast area, the garbage room, food, minimal food prep just for breakfasts, and so forth. All of the residential rooms are kept above. Actually, if we go to the design, that would be good. The exterior rendering. Maybe for well, as you can note here, the west elevation is the main entrance. The exiting stairwells you can see are not solid, but we've incorporated glazing throughout. The base level materials will be a stone type material for durability as well as aesthetic. Glazing, some articulation with some sort of banding will be incorporated, as well as a wood type material to soften it to the overall aesthetic. I think the relationship to the street, we've done so through a rhythmic patterning of the windows. The ground floor having more expansive glazing will allow some connectivity for pedestrians on the street to see into the building, while the upper floors where the guest rooms are will help, being smaller in nature, will maintain the privacy of those units. And we felt that the signage could actually play an important role in the aesthetic of the building, keeping it clean, but as well as articulating and sort of being playful, the Leroy brand hotel. So I think we're getting close to time, so I'd be open to any questions that the panel may have, and hopefully I can address them all for you.
Thank you for your presentation. Joey, do you have any questions?
Yeah, thanks, David. Yes, I do. And thanks, Ashley and Linnea, for the presentation. Going back to James's presentation, he focused on many points that encouraged a number of environmental design approaches. So I didn't hear too much from your presentations on that, except for the trees around the site being visually appealing throughout the year. So I'm wondering how does this project, and this also kind of ties into the secondary plan, but I guess my question here is, how does the project promote eco-industrial design, sustainable design? How does it maintain the ecological integrity of the site? I'd like to hear a little bit about that.
I'll let Ashley speak to the ecology aspect, but insofar as the building materials and some of that under site plan, that will come through the civil and so forth, where we'll be having, typically on hotels, there's the flow control on the roof to allow the dissipation of water slowly down and through. We collect the water. In all honesty, to the effect of every sustainable item that's required, or how it will play out, would come a little bit further, I think, once mechanical, electrical, and so forth systems are involved. Is there something in particular that you'd be interested in seeing?
Well, yeah, I agree. I mean, I think some of the questions that was posed to the panel were a little bit too detailed, and maybe too detailed for this discussion, and the design package clearly isn't at the point to convey that information. So I think I'm just looking for a larger sort of vision for the property. And I wanted to talk about this a little bit later on, but maybe it does tie into the secondary plan for this area, and this one section that does come up in the report by staff. And it's a sense of place principles, where the intent is to kind of balance a high intensity of use with large conserved natural areas, design with nature, by protecting streams, mature trees, wetlands, etc. Integrate open space system with the green belt and other natural areas. Encourage a distinct character for the district. I think this is critical for this project, because I know the Amazon fulfillment center is happening and it's really just a massive box. But this project is very distinct, and it has, I think it's a handsome building. It has architectural quality. And I think it also, because it's setting precedent there's an opportunity for it to kind of show others as they continue to develop this area, the type of kind of quality these types of projects should
Joey, I
bring.
just want to remind you, Joey, that this is the
That's the
question
question.
time.
I know.
I guess,
All
you know,
right.
electrically speaking, typically on hotels, you know, with code, we meet all the requirements for sensory lighting, everything's LED. I mean, from an electrical perspective, you're there for sustainability. Under code, you're there as well, just for the R ratings of roof, R ratings of walls and so forth. I think I agree with many of your points. I guess the one thing I'd say is, you know, when I was looking through some of the city design guidelines, they were noting when the buildings are sort of 60 meters in length or larger, they sort of fall under a different, I'm going to say, test or requirements, and we're 41 meters, I think, in length. I think it's actually, I think there's a lot we can incorporate once mechanical, electrical, you know, we're into working drawings and so forth. But I do think it's actually a fairly small building and site in context with the area, but I do hear what you're saying in regards to sustainability, and I do know we have an owner that's very keen to give a great looking building, not to skimp, and those are definitely items we can look at.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. I have a question about the green roofs. Do you have any green roof? Because I couldn't find much.
No, we don't. Typically on the 6 stories, we don't. I mean, in Toronto, where it's a requirement by law, we do, but we've found, I mean, it is a huge expense and maintenance and so forth. And these roofs of hotels are not occupied spaces, so we don't have the pickup of, say, a condo or an apartment where it would be an outdoor terrace or an area. They're closed only to maintenance.
It's green roof and other details as a part of stormwater management. That's one of the requirements that the city was asking from us. So
yeah,
the rest of that, it's so detailed, so we couldn't see much. I was wondering if you have any green roof. And it's okay for this. I have another question about the Upper James side. There is no access from Upper James, that's right?
correct.
To the building. So any connection for pedestrians should make a complete round access to come to the parking lot and then come from the from the main entrance. That's right?
Correct. There was a requirement. We actually had it situated differently at the beginning, and our prelim comments from site plan from the city were to reorient the entrance to be off, not to come off or to come off Arrow Park instead, and that addressed a side entrance, which isn't normally typical in hotels, but it actually worked because it is such a small footprint of a hotel that we were able to reorient it to make it work. Most hotel users tend to not walk. They'll come from the airport by taxi or Uber, or they're driving to the location.
Thank you.
Gianna?
Thank you. That would be interesting to know why the staff was suggesting the entrance from that side, to me at least. But to you, I would have a question. I'm sorry if I missed this. Are there any public transit routes around? And if so, are there any bus stops around this property?
I'm going to defer that one to Ashley. Sorry, Ashley, you're muted. And just while she responds, Jenna, I do know it had to do with traffic, the location of the entrance, and traffic staff requesting the entrance to be relocated.
Sorry about that. That was it was frozen for a second there. I don't believe that there are any bus stops right like close to the site. We did not look at that too in depth though, and that was going to be explored when we got into more detailed design.
Okay, thank you. And one more question. You have, oh, sorry.
Pardon?
I'm not sure if anybody else was talking, sorry. Other question I had is the cladding materials you used, I know you said wood and stone. There is another material in the renderings, actually the ones.
Yeah, it will be a
Okay,
Terra Neo, so that granite type looking prefabricated eaves panel. So they're pre-manufactured so that they're crisp lines and the reveals are crisp, and the Terra Neo almost looks like a granite in it. So it has a bit of reflectivity to it.
Okay, so but on the sides of facing Upper James, on the rendering it looks like a stone, but on the elevations it looked like this material you were describing. So could you just say which one it is?
So the base is the stone. So from the ground floor to the second floor is stone. And then the ones that have like the panel system would be Terra Neo. And then the horizontal wood type cladding will either be like a hardy plank or like the the metal wood siding that looks like wood.
Thank you. I was just, well, so it means the renderings are probably just illustrative, right? The elevations are what yours.
No, the rendering is based off the elevations because we use Revit, a 3D model, so it's actually one and the same.
The material on the rendering seems different facing Upper James. Anyway, doesn't matter. We can move on.
Jennifer Mallon.
Thanks, David. Two quick questions on the sustainability side. From the site photos, there seem to be a lot of mature trees on the site, and I'm wondering if you explored any opportunity to keep some of them. They're quite tall, and losing them is a shame. The site is tight, obviously, and one of the concerns on the city side was whether or not there's swales or mechanisms for water management on the site. Can you consider permeable paving if you're not able to do swales? So the two questions.
Okay, yeah, so we did look at the trees on the site, and there is no way to retain any of the trees that we have. We don't know the requirements for site plan yet, but we were planning on doing a full tree preservation plan to identify them and then hopefully replace them with larger trees, not like just saplings but like a larger, more mature tree. But we won't know that until we complete our report and preservation plan. And then same with the engineering. We haven't done the detailed engineering yet. We don't yet have a list of our requirements for site plan. So we haven't explored those yet, but wherever possible, we would try to include swales.
Okay, Ted, do you have any questions?
Yes, I do. Thank you. So, Linnea and Ashley, thank you for your presentation. And maybe this is a planning question, but is there another submission after this, or is this the final?
So the way that I'll kind of do a really brief history on how we've gone through the process so far. So we submitted a site plan application. We never got to go to any sort of pre-consultation or a meeting with the planner to go through our requirements. I was asking for them for a while, and we were supposed to have a meeting in December, and our planner didn't have all of the comments at the time, so our meeting kept getting pushed. And then the last time I had inquired about it, she had mentioned that we needed to come to DRP. So we applied for the DRP application. And then she had mentioned that after the DRP application, she would put all these comments together and then send us a fulsome set of comments with all of our requirements in order to make our full submission for site plan approval. So we're very early in the process still.
And Ashley, what was the call? We did have a call with the planner in regards to traffic, if you recall.
Yeah, and that was just about the changing the entrance. So we made that small change to come to this meeting.
I guess specifically my question is, will the DRP see this project again before it goes out?
No, we would like to keep the design as close to this as possible.
So that's my next point or question is that, we're being asked to evaluate the sustainable merits, the performance of the site, the materials of the building, and we don't really have any information within the package. We don't see beyond the site. We don't understand how water is being treated on the site. There's no stormwater management understanding. There's not a narrative around it. And the materials we've been described, as stone-like, we're now understanding that it's ephes that has a stone-like material to it.
Sorry, no, the stone is stone, Ted. The stone at the base ground level is all actual stone. It's the upper levels that are Terraneo.
Right, the Terraneo, which is a drive at ephes product. So I guess and I'm not, I want to first compliment the building because I think it's a really nice design. Our job is to ensure that the quality is adhered to by all the developments, and it's hard to do that without the information. So if we're not seeing it again, how are we then, how do we assess that? So now I'm commenting, but my question is, I think we need to really see that information as part of a submission package. Thank you.
Okay, that's fine. We were not informed. This was a very last minute thing that we were told to come to this meeting. We were hoping to get a fulsome set of comments from our planner with our requirements and get more work done. We didn't even know that we needed to come to DRP until about a month and a half ago. So we were just told to make this submission to come to this meeting. We have not had anything else, anybody else retained for engineering or anything else.
I think it's not even really necessarily a question for the proponent. Maybe it's also a question for the city. But we have very little time. I think we got to keep moving, or else you're not going to get any feedback from us other than indirectly here. So I'm going to ask Dana, or unless Ted, do you have any other further questions?
No, that's good. Thank you.
Dana?
No further questions.
And I think I don't have any further questions, just to give us enough time to give some feedback. So I'm going to ask at this point, I think it's Joey is the beginning here. Let me just see. Yes, Joey.
Yeah,
if you could provide any commentary, please.
Sure. I don't think I have a lot of comments. I think I'm just going to piggyback off of what Ted said, and I think this project came to us prematurely. It seems that the comments from city staff aren't really aligning with with the package that's being put forward. I'd recommend seeing this project again when it's more developed and answering some of the questions that staff is asking.
Okay.
Is there any questions, any comments for Hoda?
I echo what other colleagues said, that we need more details about water management and sustainability, and also about the paving for the pedestrian area to be more even permeable and have light color SRI over 78. These are the general comments. I know that it's not for now. Maybe we could see you later with more details. Talk about this. Thank you.
Yeah. I think you might be muted.
Sorry about that. I agree with my colleagues. I would like to say, though, that when you are looking at the building, I think it needs to have more permeability toward the public street. It's a prominent corner location. I know you have 3 public streets around you, so it's not easy, but it should be addressed a little better with more transparency at the ground, more openness toward the public streets, better connections, I think. I would strongly suggest on that Upper James Street elevations, that's really that you at least use stone as shown in the rendering on all of the floors, not as shown in the elevations, that stucco stuff. And I would like to suggest considering redesigning of the parking to introduce at least some breaks for pedestrian connections and landscaping and stormwater facilities. Like right now, it's not the best. And I agree with Jennifer that protecting trees, at least along the property lines, should be something to look at seriously. And I don't have any more comments at this time. Thank you.
Jennifer, I think I put you next, though I'm not sure you were supposed to be next, so I'll go to you again at this point.
Okay, thanks, David. Just congratulations, first of all. I think it's the preliminary design is got some massing clarity. It's got a boldness that I completely appreciate. It's probably a really competitive and price sensitive kind of building to deliver, but I think you're delivering some design in that price range, which is great. There seems to be some discrepancy between the plans that were shown to us and the elevations. Where the sign is in the rendering, Leroy's, some of the plans indicate bedrooms there. So just clarifying some of the documentation would be great. And one final comment, I like the stone at the ground, but I think the plane of the hotel room windows would hover a bit more if the windows were reconsidered below it. And I'm not saying, I don't know what the solution is there, but just some finesse and design, but it's a nice start. Thanks.
Ted.
Thanks. Okay. So yeah, I would agree that some of the plans don't match, and it seems like the Revit plans that were provided actually do match the rendering. So I see that there's two iterations in the building design there. So one of them showing punched windows in the stairwell, the other one showing curtain wall. Clearly, there's a qualitative difference, and I'm assuming that the renderings and the elevations are what's really the design result. And I would compliment you. I think it is really quite a nice massing. I think it's evolved from the earlier renderings where it had a lot of corners on the corner. It now seems to be 3 layers on the front. And some really some nice clarity and simplicity to the massing. So compliments to the team. In terms of materials, I think it really would benefit us to understand those better and have a commitment of those materials moving forward. In terms of transparency to the west, it seems as though all of the amenity spaces are on the north side of the building, or pardon me, to the south. So the kitchen, the dining room, the amenity rooms are all on the south, and it seems to me, and a patio on the north. If those were flipped, you could have them all in the south. You could have a patio on the exterior to the street. You could develop that facade in a way that really activates and animates that space. And I appreciate that right now. It's not an urban place, but it will be. And this building, I think, is going to be there for some time. Eventually, there will be sidewalks. There will be restaurants and things that people might want to walk to, and maybe a connection to the main street, to James, would be something to consider as well. I think that from a sustainability point of view, I think there's lots that can be done here, and particularly if your client is professed to pursue a sustainable agenda. I think we want to hear exactly what that is and how that's being done. Given the low process loads, I'm assuming, of a hotel, this may be a hotel that could achieve net zero in terms of energy from PV on the roof. It feels like the canopy would be a great opportunity for a green roof that could allow some stormwater management, but also could be viewed at the end of the corridor at a number of levels and upon arrival. I think in terms of the site plan, I appreciate that you need a certain number of parking spaces, but the drop-off seems incredibly narrow and tight. It feels like if 3 spots were dropped out of that parking lot and the canopy were extended and the space in front of the building for arrival were made more generous, it would feel like a much more pedestrian-friendly space for arrival. And I think that, yeah, and one other comment, there is an opportunity perhaps for specimen trees on the northeast corner of this landscape to just enhance the street frontage as well. But I do want to compliment you. I do think it's a handsome design, and I'd like to see it the quality locked into it as it moves forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Dana.
Thank you. I do echo some of the comments from some of my colleagues, such as Ted and Jennifer, around the design and the price point. I think there's a lot of great things around the building design that you've done and incorporated into this project so far. I am supportive of the parking variance. I think that 1 per room at 80 parking spaces would be too much and an oversupply of parking. I think there are opportunities for better pedestrian connection within the parking lot. So you could consider a central spine between the 2 end islands. That way people could back in, unload their car, and enter the building via pedestrian pathways. And lastly, I just think that you look at enhancing the west elevation. Maybe it's through more glazing or just some more detail. But otherwise, I think that's all of my comments.
Thank you, Dana. So my comments echo, I think, most of what has been said. I agree that the building above grade is quite successfully masked, particularly as it appears in the rendering. The more complex plans are not, well, I don't know if they produce such a convincing solution. So I'm assuming that the rendered massing is the correct scenario going forward. And similarly, I think the application of different materials and the way they're applied seems successful. Whether or not those particular materials that you're proposing are as convincing as the rendering is a question. And there are some transitions at the corners when you're going at the base between one material and another. It seems a little unsuccessful. I think the real challenge that I have, and it's already been stated, is at the ground level, the lack of engagement in the main corner, and whether or not, as Ted commented, maybe through rearrangement of the organization of the ground floor amenity locations and public the patio as well, and flipping them over to the street side would help to address some of those concerns. I think, though, that even I think it's the shorter ends are east and west. Those 2 elevations are pretty blank at the ground level. Even on the entry side, I'm surprisingly blank. Even though there are amenity areas inside right there, a lounge and a dining area. Outside it's guard, if I remember correctly. So I'm not looking for windows into that. I agree. But I think that's the mystery there. And I have to admit, the process questions, the city questions as to how this flows through this approval process is a bit of a mystery at this moment. And I guess we would look to the city to clarify whether this project whether we will have an opportunity to review it. But I guess our comment, and this is not specifically to your submission, but it's just that if we're looking at projects with the intention of commenting on the particular questions that are being asked, then I think that we need to insist that those projects that come forward to us have the information that would allow us to answer those questions. And that would mean, obviously a more detailed presentation that we receive, and confirmation of the the materials in a confirmed manner, rather than almost in an anecdotal manner that we're receiving verbally right now. So I think that you may have some questions yourself of the panel. You're welcome to ask us.
I more have a question of process going forward. So obviously we came to this meeting way too premature. We still don't even have our preliminary site plan comments. So I'm just wondering now, where do we go from here? So we get our preliminary site plan comments after this, and then do we put together a new like a new application, or not a new application, but like a resubmission to get our preliminary approval, and then work through getting all of our studies done, and then come back to DRP once planning is sort of satisfied with those, or what's the process from here? Because it's been a weird one to get here, so I'm just looking for some clarification on that. There's a few of you here who I'm sure could answer that.
I think that's a question for James or Sharon.
Yeah.
James or
Janet,
Oki,
sorry.
if you could give a reply, please.
Yeah. So I've heard I've heard what the DRP is saying. It sounds like they need a bit more detail. Just unfortunately, we do have site plan timeframes that we're trying to meet. So I'm not too sure if we want to come back or just take into consideration what the DRP is saying and see if we can have the applicant just go above and beyond what they've submitted. If they can bump it up and meet a few more check marks essentially, and still continue with the site plan process. This isn't typically the DRP will have other applications such as official plan amendments or zoning bylaw amendments that are going through more of a public process. But I think here we would like to go right into the nitty and gritty of the detailed design. So in terms of process, I think the next step is a conditional approval.
Okay, so James, maybe you and I can have a discussion in the next week or so and just kind of iron all of that out and make sure.
And we would incorporate in that, sorry to cut you off there, Ashley. We would incorporate in that conditional approval, we'd want to incorporate some of the concerns that we've heard from DRP, such as permeable pavers. I know I did hear green roofs, but that might not be realistic. The facade on Upper James. So yeah, and we can discuss this offline as well.
Okay, yeah, that's really fair. Okay.
And I just wanted to add, it's Anita Fayback, Manager of Development Planning, Heritage and Design. Depending on the application type, coming to DRP takes a bit of a different stream. So if you're in an OPA, ZBA situation, you're going to come, we ask early on, right? So that any of those comments can be incorporated, and we incorporate DRP's suggestions into revisions and also into our staff report. When it comes to a site plan, this is the time to go to DRP. So the site plan process at the city here, and James alluded to it, we have a submission and then a conditional approval. You have 1 year to fulfill conditions, and then we issue final approval. So if there is a project that's going to DRP, we always want it to go at the same time that city staff are receiving all comments and before we issue conditional approval. So any of the comments that we receive from DRP can be incorporated into the conditional approval. Usually that would be done through some red line changes to elevations or on the site plan in particular. So this is, I just wanted to clarify, this would be the time to go so that the applicant and agent, then when they get a full package of comments back, they can start to work through those comments and then look at the ways or how they're going to incorporate those changes. So sorry, I didn't mean to interject, but I just wanted to clarify.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Anita. Are there any other further questions of the applicant?
Nope.
Okay, thank you. I think we're done for this one then. We have one more. For us, I think the applicant is free to go. Have the rest of the day off.
Okay, thank you guys so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we'll look at incorporating.
Thanks, everyone.
All right,
Thank
bye.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.